Great. So can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
See the
See it.
Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning, and we're going to assume that I'm having a phone conversation with West, who I've just called. So West is going to be the customer. This could come from a variety of sources, but at whatever point they decide, yeah, they're willing to listen, over the phone or online. Yeah. So West, here, let me go ahead and mute everyone. I was going to do that. One moment.
Hi, Kathy. We can see you now, by the way.
Okay.
Welcome.
Let me see. Well, do I need to mute everyone, or are we okay? That way, I'll leave it for now, unless we get some background.
We're good now.
Just be aware.
Just make sure you're really, just be in a quiet place and make sure you're not in a place where there's background noise. We should be fine.
Yep. Great.
Go ahead, Aaron.
So, Wes, thanks for taking the time to visit with me today over the phone. Definitely some unique circumstances, but I'm really excited to still be able to share some really valuable information with you. We'll assume for this presentation that he's single because it's just him. Obviously, if it's a couple, just like normal, we'd want them both to be together. So I'm just confirming, Wes, your wife passed away and you were able to serve your family about 3 years ago now. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Well, I have a link to a presentation I'd like to go through with you. I'm going to send that. Would that be best to view for you on your cell phone or via email?
You send it to my email address, please.
Great. So now everyone, now I'm talking to the counselors. You will now go to your NowDeck login. Most of you have this. If not, you will be getting it shortly. But you'll go to the NowDeck sign-in screen. You'll get all of this information from Sierra. I've pulled up a list that we have here, so I'm going to copy Angie's NowDeck. And you'll just right-click on that, copy. Everyone see that? Now that link is copied. I'm now going to go here. Does everyone see this where it says send presentation link? Got it? So now I'm going to send this. I'm going to paste. So I copied the link. Now I'm pasting the link to his email, which I have here. Normally you'll ask, but I just already have it. And if they're not already in funeral decisions, this is a really cool tool. I could click yes, and then I could add his name and contact information, and it would automatically add it to funeral decisions. So we'll assume he's already in the system, and I'm just going to send it. So now West is receiving that email in real time, just like if he was a normal customer. So West, correct. I just sent that email. Let me know when you've received that.
All right, let me just pull that up here on my end. If you'll give me just a moment, I'll take a look at it here. Let's see. Let's see. I haven't logged into my email for like 6 months. Aaron, could you help me? Do you know what my password is by any chance?
I think it's password.
Oh, that wasn't probably very funny because it actually is going to happen. So, yeah. I'm just pulling it up.
Yeah, it happens to me daily.
So I got an email from NowDeck. It says your presentation link. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What I'm looking
the program
for?
we use to share the information is called NowDeck.
Okay.
That is what the good. You should probably tell people that they're getting the email from NowDeck. So let me know when you've received that, and go ahead and click on the link, West.
Yeah, I've clicked on the link. It's asking for my name, so I'm going to go ahead and put my name. Oh, and I can see a thing. It says it's the personal wishes organizer. Is that what I should be looking at here?
That's exactly it. Wonderful. And now we're both seeing the same thing. So everyone, counselors, can you see now? West has his little icon there, and I have mine here. We're both doing it, and we're both able to toggle through the screen. Does that make sense? So West, this is the book. Stay still, Wes. We're not going there yet. Just calm down. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So I know we've been talking for 2 weeks now, and this is the book that we discussed on the phone. It's called The Personal Wishes Organizer. Families who have brought this into the funeral home have shared with us that it's one of the most valuable books that they could have received, especially when having to make arrangements unexpectedly for a loved one. Oh, we've got someone echo. So what we're going to cover today will answer about 90% of the questions that the funeral director will ask the family when the time comes. We're going to cover a few pages today, and then when we're done, I'm actually going to mail you a physical copy of the book. Sound good?
That would be great. I think I'd like to actually have a copy of the book.
Right.
That would be good. Thank you.
Excellent. So before we get started today, I just have a few questions, if you don't mind me asking. So West, have you ever thought about kind of what you would like for your own funeral arrangements when the time comes?
I haven't given it a lot of thought, but I probably would do it just kind of like everyone else in my family, have a service at my church and like a viewing or visitation or something, probably the same day and maybe the night before at my church as well,
Okay.
or maybe at the funeral home. So that's about all that I really thought about.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. And then may I ask, I know your wife did pass away. Have you had to make funeral arrangements for anyone other than her, or was that your first experience with this?
That was my first experience, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm so sorry to hear about that. That must have been a very difficult time. Do you mind me asking, had you made arrangements for her in advance, or was it done after passing occurred?
We didn't actually. We kind of talked about things, so I kind of had an idea of what she wanted, and we were planning on going into the mortuary beforehand, but things just got kind of crazy and busy, and we never made it in. So I kind of knew what she wanted, but we hadn't really finalized anything. So when I went in with my kids, we had to make a lot of those decisions.
Okay, and that must have been very difficult, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. That kind of leads me to my next question. Tell me again, how many children do you have?
I've got 5.
Okay, so if something had happened to you, heaven forbid, yesterday, and the family was in meeting with the funeral director today, who would be in meeting with us?
Probably all of them. They'd all be in there together.
Okay, so all 5 children, are any of them married?
Yes, a couple of them are.
Okay, so do you envision the spouses would be there as well?
Most likely.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, do they agree most of the time? Do they get along all the time? Tell me a little bit about that dynamic.
Well, they would all think that they're in charge.
Okay, well, congratulations, you've raised smart and intelligent children, but that is what we see, and you can probably tell by your comment there, sometimes that can create its own difficulty at the time, because if everyone's in charge, then no one's in charge, right?
Absolutely.
So are you familiar? I know it's been a few years, but do you know how much funerals cost today, or how much it would be?
Oh, I think if I remember right, the funeral was around anywhere. I think it was like 12,000 and something when we took care of things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Then we had to buy a headstone too later, so it was. I mean, for everything was probably maybe close to 14,000. That's what I can remember at this point. It was pretty expensive though.
yeah, it can be, even when you're prepared for it, it can be difficult, let alone when you're not prepared. So, yeah, that's not far off. Of course, funerals increase every year, as you probably know. An average funeral today in the state of Utah, with burial and headstone and obituary and services, everything that's included, is probably closer to 13 to 17,000. But the nice thing about what we're going to be discussing today is we're going to find something that works for you and for your budget, and that makes sense for what you want and what you need. Thank you for sharing that with me. I want to go now to this first page of the Personal Wishes Organizer. This page is really just designed to help me know what to focus on as we're visiting here today. You know, throughout our lives, West, it sounds like you're a wonderful father. You've always taken care of your family, even your wife through the end, and your children. And we invest in protection for all sorts of things. We have health insurance, we have auto insurance, life insurance, for things that, quite frankly, we hope may never occur, sometimes even dental insurance. But the one thing that we know, frankly, is inevitable sometimes we're not prepared for. So fortunately, and especially in these uncertain times, more and more families are choosing to add their final arrangement planning under that umbrella of protection. So if we look here on this page, if you can see here, there's a lot of different reasons that families choose to get together and get their final arrangements in order like we're doing today. But just so I know what to focus on, what sort of stands out to you, and I'll just read these to you. But sometimes it's just putting your house in order, maybe the peace of mind doing this now together with me while you have the comfort of making these decisions. Sometimes it's stopping that inflation, but most often what we hear is just removing that burden from your children and your loved ones. So if you had to think of one or two things that really stands out to you, what would that be?
I would probably say the two biggest ones for me are, one is, of course, I want to take this off of the burden off of my kids. Obviously, when my wife passed away, I could kind of take the lead and make the decisions, and it really wasn't so much on them. But when I pass away, obviously, it's going to be on them. So I think removing the burden from them, and then I know when my wife passed away, I felt like I needed to, spend a lot of money, and I would think that my kids will probably feel the same way about me. So I do, I don't want them to feel like that they need to spend more than necessary.
Right. Unfortunately, you are aware of what we call emotional overspending. It's sort of a child's last chance to tell mom or dad how much they love them. Of course, we know that's not the case, and that's not how we show love. But when you're in that place of guilt and uncertainty, sometimes that's how it comes out. So if I understood you correctly, your main motivation for getting this done now is to remove that burden, so your children, A, don't have to come into the funeral home unprepared, but B, don't have to make emotional overspending decisions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So I'm kind of back off real quick just to all the counselors again. Especially now we're not in person, we have to really reiterate the purpose of this visit. I had a call with someone yesterday that at the end, they just are not sure about the money. They're going to wait till some stuff happens in the market. If their investments come through, if their house sells, all of these things, if we get to the money, we paint ourselves into a corner. So if you heard what West said, and any of you have gone through a presentation, almost always it's some version of that. Rarely do they say, I want to get the best return on my investment, and that's why I'm pre-planning. So dig a little deeper into this than maybe you would in person, and then reiterate back to them, if I heard you correctly, this is what I'm hearing you say from your heart, why you finally decided to get this done today. So notice we're using that assumptive language. Don't get past this page. This is probably one of the most important pages of the whole presentation. So we're still doing the 4 questions. We're still building the value of the book before we start into the personal wishes organizer. Any questions at this point from anyone? Okay. So then we're now, West, I'm going to go through to a couple pages. We have the table of contents. But then now this page really speaks to my heart, West. Sometimes I know a lot of you have families read this. They might not be able to on the email. So best thing is to kind of memorize that first line. But West, if it's okay, I would just like to read the first sentence of the second paragraph just to best describe the purpose of our visit today. And this is what your children will be reading when the time comes and they're in the funeral home with this book. In this personal wishes guide, you will find information that I have recorded and arrangements I have made in advance, hoping to relieve you of the burden of these decisions when you are under stress. Pause for a minute, let that sink in. This is not about the money. If you're getting objections at the end consistently about the money, it means we're not spending enough time at the beginning. The umbrella page and this page are so incredibly powerful if you do it right, if you take the time. So we read that first sentence in this personal wishes guide, just that first sentence, and then I'll say to West, after we get this done today, I'm going to mail you that book. You'll have this actual page to sign. Do you have someone, West, that you'd feel comfortable signing as a witness?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've got some people I could do that with, sure.
Okay, and do you think that would be a family member or neighbor or?
Most likely a family member.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, just something to think about. and make sure that they know that these are your wishes as well. How do you think your children will feel when they see this when the time comes?
I think they'll be very relieved to know that it's been taken care of.
Absolutely. Well, great. Okay, so I'm going to cover now a couple pages in this book. This first page may be one of the more important pages for the actual funeral director when the time comes. West, when your wife passed away, did you help fill out a death certificate for her?
I remember that they gave us one, and I had to get all of her information put together. I couldn't remember how to spell her mother's maiden name, though. That was kind of embarrassing.
Well, don't be embarrassed. If that's all you struggled with, you're ahead of most people. It's a very difficult and overwhelming page. Good news is this is the page that will cover that information. So having this filled out, your kids won't have to guess about the information for the death certificate. So that this first page is very important. Next, we'll talk about the service information. Now, West, are you a veteran of the military?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about this page. And then remind me, do you own cemetery property?
I do have some cemetery property. Yes, I have a space next to my wife.
Great. And you envision a traditional graveside service after the funeral, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have to answer these questions right now, but if you look at the bottom of the page, it talks about what you'll want to wear, if you want any jewelry, a wedding band left on, if you wear glasses, and then any musical selections. That part actually can be a really fun and cathartic piece. But any music that is meaningful to you and your children, make sure to make a note of that there. The next page is about pallbearers. When you get this book, I'd advise you to fill this out in pencil because it might change, but I can't tell you how sweet it is for someone to see that you've physically written their name down to be either a pallbearer or an honorary pallbearer. And then the bottom part here talks about caskets. We'll be going through that later today, so we don't need to worry about that right now. And then this is information about the cemetery itself and where that's located. If you have a deed for the property, I would just include the deed in this book or make sure the kids know where that is. Any questions about those pages?
No, seems pretty self-explanatory. It looks like a lot of things I need to work on, though.
Yeah, well, just take a couple pages at a time, and I'll be here as you're going through it. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but it's just a reminder of how important and how difficult this would be if the kids were left to it when the time comes, right?
Sure. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Great. Next page is for the obituary. With the exception of a few brilliant writers, which is not myself, most people are overwhelmed by this process. So just write some bullet points about your life, childhood experiences, adulthood, maybe anything you don't want listed, any accomplishments, what you're most proud of. And then our funeral director and staff will write the obituary for the family to review. That way the kids don't feel overwhelmed with having to start that from scratch. Do you remember that from when you wrote your wife's obituary, or did they help you with that?
Oh, I was so worried I was going to leave something out. I think it was like the longest obituary in the newspaper that day because I didn't want to.
It happens. It's harder to.
Don't want to forget anybody.
This will help them with that for sure. Wes, before we move on to some of the cost options, it's worth discussing again, and you've already shared with me, but in reality, there really are only two ways that we can handle the loss of a loved one for your children. So those decisions can be made, unfortunately, as you know, from a place of grief, uncertainty, emotional overspending, and quite frankly, it can be a scary time. Or we have the matter of choice, knowing that we're making these decisions together from a place of calm and logic and reason. And you just have the peace of mind of knowing that this is taken care of and removing that from your kids. So based on what you've shared with me today, it sounds like you would much rather have these things done ahead of time rather than leave it till when the time comes. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to do anything at this point, but I definitely want to have it taken care of before I die, for sure.
Excellent. Yep. And we're going to go through all of your options. Financially, it may or may not work, and that's okay. We just want to know that you want to proceed now to see some of your options, and we'll find something that works for your budget and fits for you. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
So I'm going to show you this page. Can you see this pie chart here, West?
I see it. Yep.
Okay.
This pie chart right here.
Yes.
Got it.
That is it. So this is a visual representation of all the decisions that must be made when someone passes away. I'm a visual person. I don't know about you, but this makes it very clear and simple. The bottom half of this pie chart here is everything related to your cemetery costs. The top half is everything related to the funeral service itself. We are going to discuss everything today, just so that there are no surprises when the time comes. But the nice thing is, with each section, you find what works for you and for your budget, and we'll make that work. Sound good?
Okay, makes sense.
So what we've done to make this very simple is we've created some basic packages based on what you've already shared with me. So the type of service you discussed that you would like for your arrangements, and it sounds like what your wife chose, what you chose for her, is what we call a traditional funeral service. And that's where you have an evening viewing the night before, and then the service the next day with the viewing prior, and then transportation to the graveside. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that sounds pretty standard as far
So
as what I've seen people do.
just like with a normal presentation, you guys, you should already know what type of service they want before you get to this page. This isn't the time to say, well, here's our GPL and you can do a viewing or not. You should already have a pretty good idea of what type of service they want. And now it's just a matter of finding the package that works best. The next question I'm going to ask him is related to the casket. We want to narrow down the casket options. So, West, do you mind me asking if you have a preference? Do you prefer a wood or a metal casket?
Personally, I really like wood over metal. I'm not. Yeah, I think the wood's just very nice, very beautiful.
Great. Well, what's nice here is we have about 4 different wood options that are beautiful and that are also kind of in our normal range of cost. An average cost casket can be anywhere from a few thousand up to 30,000. I mean, just like anything, there's quite a range. So we've picked a couple here. This package here is very simple. It includes everything related to the traditional service, and then either of these 2 caskets. Now, do you prefer a darker wood or a lighter wood?
I kind of like that one on the right there, but is there a way you could blow that up so I could see it a little bit better?
Yes. Good. Let me just zoom in here. Did that zoom in for you?
How about a little bit more? How about just a little bit more? Oh, perfect. That's great.
That's right. I forgot.
Hey, look.
He's 88, I think. So he's got
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Readers.
yeah, let me get my reading glasses real quick. Okay, that's good. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Kind of expensive though. Do you have any other options that we can look at?
And that's why I asked on color. So with this casket option, the casket itself is $41.45 and then includes everything else you need. Itemized, that cost is $12,455. Doing it ahead of time, pre-planning as a package, there's a savings. It's pretty significant. It would be $10,287. But here we're going to go to the next slide. These are also 2 very nice wood casket options, and this is a lighter wood, a little bit darker, and they're only $27.45. So I'll zoom in for you again. Which of these 2 do you like better?
I like that one on the left there. This one right here. Let's see, this one okay. Right here.
The Indica gloss. That's a beautiful casket. Yep. Beautiful choice.
Yeah,
and very well priced. Great. So that will be your package, and that includes everything for the service itself, the viewing, the visitation, the service, and the graveside, as well as the vehicles.
Okay.
It includes the casket, your register book and merchandise, programs, and a sealed concrete vault. The cemetery does require a vault. That's our least expensive sealed concrete vault. So itemized, that's $11,055, but by pre-planning today, it's only $2,027. Now, we are going to talk additionally about a few supplemental items. Do you have any questions about this first?
When you say supplemental items, that's kind of the stuff I remember. I mean, that's a lot lower than what I spent. So I'm assuming that I'd pay like something at the cemetery and different things. Is that going to be included in this? Or how does that work?
So that is not included in this cost. So back to when we were discussing the average price of a funeral. I'm just zooming here through because we're not going to talk cremation, everyone. Average is about 13 to 17,000, but we are going to include money for these items. So now you guys you want to either have this printed out or just have a scratch paper, and you're going to make notes as you go. So West, you said your cemetery property was where?
That's at the Harriman City Cemetery. It's a
Okay.
little cemetery where I live.
Great, and usually you'll know this before you get there, right? So the opening and closing of the grave at the cemetery is about $600, so we'll figure for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then your wife already has a headstone, so we'll just figure a final date fee. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a headstone with both our names on it there, yeah.
Okay, so that will be $350. Now for the flowers, you'll notice here, guys, we're just being assumptive. We're not asking if they want to include money for this. It's just, it has to be paid for. There's no reason to leave it out. So for the floral piece, there's a couple of options. Some families choose to pre-plan the casket spray as well as 2 standing easels. Some families just want the casket spray itself. Just the casket piece will want to figure about $450. If you want 2 standing easels, we'll figure about $900. Which would you prefer?
I think I'll just do the thing that goes on the casket. I'll let my kids pick out the other stuff.
Great. And then in the book that I send you, you'll make a note about what type of flowers and what colors. Sound good?
Okay, that's fine.
So so then I'll total those for you. I'm actually going to total what we just discussed. So the total for the cemetery and floral items will be $1,400, which we'll add. And then this bottom section is some additional third-party fees, which you're familiar with. So an obituary now, an average run obituary for 1 day is about $700. 2 days is about $1,100. Do you want to figure for 1 or 2 days?
You know, I don't want my obituary in the newspaper. I just when my wife passed away, I just put it on the funeral home's website, and that was enough.
Great. So there's no cost to that. Be very assumptive with the obituary, guys, but if they don't want it, just move on. We don't argue about it. It's no big deal. No problem. We will post the obituary online. It just will not be printed in any of the local papers. And is that what you're wanting, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Okay. Sales tax, we're just going to estimate at about $350. For those of you in California, probably estimate $3,000. Just kidding, not that high, but figure more. Don't add up and try to itemize the sales tax because we're just guessing anyway. Death certificates, on average, we want about 8 to 10 death certificates, so we'll estimate about $150 for those. And then is there anything else you see listed here that you would like to include money for?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I mean, they got to spend some money, don't they? Jeez, making it too easy.
Well, it sounds like you've raised smart kids, so if they can pay for some floral sprays for you, that'll be nice.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay. So now we're going to go back. So if you guys remember, I'm just going to go back to this other page with the service. And so this was the package he chose. So you'll notice here the cost for everything he decided on was $9,027. And then skipping forward again to the supplemental cost worksheet, we're adding $1,400 for this section plus $500 for this section. So we're adding $1,900. Okay, West. So for everything that we've discussed here today, the total for everything is, after the discount, only $10,927. Now, this is where most families ask about their options for paying for this. Funeral homes, you may or may not know, legally cannot hold your money for a funeral service until the day of passing. So that money is held safely in an insurance vehicle. What's really nice about that is you can either pay in full or you can make payments over time. I'll just give you both options and you tell me what works best. Sound good?
Yeah, that's fine. Just if I do make payments, or making payments and want to pay it off early, can I do that?
Yeah, great question. You actually can set it up on payments today, and then you have 6 months to pay it off without any additional cost. And a lot of our families use that option. So I'll just give you a few options and you tell me what works, okay?
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna do anything today, but I just wanted to know if that was a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So West, let me just ask you a couple of questions. So now, guys, we're just getting out our homesteader's calculator. I can't see my computer or my screen, but I'm assuming you can see me on your phone. Okay, you're going to get it out on your phone, and you're going to figure out the calculations. We're not going to the online enrollment yet. So we have now finished the NowDeck presentation. We're pulling out our homesteader's rate calculator. Good. So I'm going to fill this out, and then I'm going to take a screenshot of the calculator. Okay. There is then a way to mark that up and highlight and email it directly to him. So Wes, give me a moment. I'm going to figure some calculation options, and then I'm going to either email or text. I could probably just text it to him for him to pull up. Okay. So does that make sense to everyone, what we're doing there, so he can see the options? So I actually sent this earlier. And here it is. Okay, so this is what I had emailed to him earlier, and this is what you can also text. But can you guys see this? So now he has it in his email.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
I see so those are my options for taking care of things, right? Yeah.
So these are,
okay.
We'll assume that he's just looking at it on his computer or his phone if you've texted to him. So West, these are the options. You can pay in full if you have the means, or we can set it up over 3 years, will be $502 a month. 5 years will be $327 a month. 7 years will be $286 a month. 10 years will be $226 a month. You'll want to, we'll discuss the away from home, but the pricing in most of your packages includes that. We'll discuss that separately. But okay, so which of these is the most comfortable for you, Wes?
Let's see here. Well, probably when I do start paying on it, I probably will. Man, I want to just pay it off as quick as I can, but probably going to be around. I probably would pick the 5-year option, most likely for $327.
Okay.
That seems like amount to probably afford. Not right now, but I think I got to get a couple of things taken care of. But I think that's probably what I'd pick.
Okay, so the $327 a month is most comfortable for your budget, and you feel like that's doable.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to make a suggestion. We have a very simple way now to get this all started and set up initially online, where we can fill it all out, and you'll have the protection and peace of mind of knowing that this is taken care of. Then you'll get the policy. They're actually going to mail you a physical version of the policy in the mail in about 2 weeks to review. We can then set up another time to get back together on the phone or online and review that together. But wouldn't it give you some peace of mind just to know that it started, and you'd only have to pay the $327 today?
I really wasn't planning on doing anything today. Could you kind of get everything all put together for me, and then maybe so I could maybe think about it just a little bit, or I'm just not really comfortable at this point doing anything.
Sure. Why don't we do this? If you can see this page on our screen now, can you see that says my preference vital statistics?
Yes, I see that.
So let's go through. I'm going to ask you the questions on this page, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill everything out online just so you can see it all very clearly, and then we can make a decision at that point how to proceed. Sound good?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's
Okay.
go and do that.
So you guys want to have this sheet printed? When you can pull it up on your email and just print this one page. This information here is all of the information you'll need for your online enrollment, okay? So the nice thing about online enrollment, you can kind of see, which is what West is doing, is we can then kind of say, you know what, no problem, let's get it started and set up so you can see it, and then we can pick back up, because I'm going to now figure this out online and call him back in about 15 or 20 minutes. But you just have to get all of this information. So I would go through and just ask your name, last name, address, what preference, which you'll know, birth date, social, which you don't need the social. So if you don't get that, that's okay. Mother's maiden name, bank routing, all of that, which you might wait on that. If in this situation, you might wait till you're actually online. But does this make sense, this page, you guys, the purpose of this?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone? Okay. So we're now going to transition to the Homesteaders online enrollment. So that is the end of the NowDeck. Before I transition, does everyone understand what this is now and how it works?
Yes.
Okay, everyone feel like they could do it? I'm going to take that as a yes. I'm going to take the silence.
Yeah.
Erin,
Yes.
this is Heather.
Hi, Heather.
So really, at this point, with the side note that you're meeting with somebody online, it's really no different. You're still creating that emotional and financial urgency. You're still going through the personal wishes organizer in a shortened version, and you're still collecting the information for the vital stats page. So really, it's not too far different than what you're doing if you're meeting with somebody in person.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. That's the intention of doing this today. If you guys can tell, it doesn't feel, and Melanie and a few people have pointed this out, in a way sometimes because there's that dead space where you're doing things and then you end up chit-chatting more. In some ways you build more of a connection over the phone. So that emotion is still there. He was still very open and honest about his reasons for doing this. Yeah, this isn't meant to be a sterile electronic process. We're still connecting with the people, building that emotion, so that at the end, you know, we're able to get past those objections. Yes, thanks, Heather. Anyone else?
One question real quick we had in the chat is, can the My Preferences and Vital Stats page be sent to us in a PDF we can fill in? Yes, Sierra sitting here with me. She will create a separate page that will be a fillable PDF if you guys are tech savvy and want to do it that way. No problem whatsoever. Easy to do.
Great, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to leave the NowDeck page, and we're now going to go to the online enrollment. So, so everyone, hopefully most people have tried this. If not, you just go to myhomesteaders.com or homesteaderslife.com and you log in. But we did this with a few people today. They didn't know their logins. So first thing is make sure you know how to log in to My Homesteaders. If you don't know your password, you just click on Forgot Password, but you need to make sure to be able to log into there. So then there's a button here, or you can do it through here, but you'll go to Online Enrollment. Okay, everyone see that? Right here, Online Enrollment. We now are going to do a practice pending enrollment, which that will be everyone's homework who hasn't already completed one. You'll just go to a practice enrollment, and we are now going to practice a new enrollment. So I'm filling out my state. Yep.
I'm going to add a little piece to that. Once you've received your email, it'll say NowDeck is ready. When you get that email, someone, Heather, Aaron, Michael, or Travis, will be calling you and giving you the opportunity to do a mock presentation, so that we know that you know how to send the NowDeck and that you know how to do an online enrollment. So I would encourage you to try to learn and practice this ahead of time, but we are individually with each agent going to call you and help you walk through an online enrollment, basically doing the exact same presentation that Aaron is giving me right now. We're going to ask for everybody to do with their manager so that we know everyone's familiar with the system. So watch very carefully. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yes, thank you. See how fun you'll all get to do this. We won't record yours unless you want, but okay. So I'm now going through the form. It'll ask you some questions, which will be pretty obvious. They're either a resident of California or not. West is not. So I'm scrolling to the bottom here, clicking next. And now we're going to input. So I've now filled out that sheet, and I'm not on the phone with West anymore. I said I'm going to fill out some information, and I'm going to call you back in about 15 to 20 minutes. Make sure that works for them. Michael went through this.
Erin?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. This is Heather again. So just for my own curiosity, and I feel like I should know this, but I don't. What if they are a California resident and you hit yes? Does it take you to that disclosure page, or what is the difference there?
Michael, do you know the answer to that?
Yes, sorry. Arm and I are eating lunch. I apologize. I turned my camera off. yes, I don't know if it takes you to it right then, but at some point it'll prompt you to show that page.
To do the California
Okay, so that
disclosure.
is just for the disclosure.
That's right. That's the only reason they're asking if they're a California resident or not.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, good question. I
No
didn't know
problem.
that either. So that's good to know. So I'm going to fill this out for Wes. Probably has more practice test enrollments than anyone for the entire company of homesteaders. Okay.
They love me.
Well,
We got like 12 limited power of attorneys for me, so.
yeah, that one too. So I'm filling out his information, and just kind of basic stuff. So email@email.com. And then here's the thing on the social, you guys. You do not have to have it, but you either have to enter the whole thing or nothing at all. If you enter just the last 4, it'll keep kicking you back. So either have the whole social or don't have any of it, okay? West is a male, pretty sure. His birthday is December 2nd. We know that. All his passwords. What year?
1973.
Okay, well, I went way down. I was in the 30s. Okay.
That was kind of rude.
So, Aaron,
Yeah.
you're suggesting that we don't do this with them, but that we call them back and have this already done?
So, good question, Karen. If you have someone like West was that is kind of, well, I'm not sure, what are my options? Say, give me a minute, I'm going to fill out some stuff that we can review together, and then I would hang up and call back. If they're ready to go, and you know they're ready to go, and they don't mind waiting, then you can fill it out. The thing is, they cannot see this screen. They're not looking at this with you, unless you had, like you had talked about, Karen, about getting Zoom or Join Me. But they're not seeing it with you, so it's just a lot of dead air.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So you guys are seeing this because it's the GoToMeeting, but now West as the customer, he stopped seeing what I was seeing at the end of the NowDeck presentation. Does that make sense?
So, Aaron, when would you ask them questions as far as their age in case they qualified for the premium select or the,
Good question.
sorry,
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's back when we were quoting. So we got the package pricing, and then we did the supplemental funds costs. And then in order to figure out his payments, I just asked his age. So if he would have told me, like he actually is 43 or whatever he is, then you could also ask some additional health questions.
okay.
Yep, kind of way back before. How old are you guys?
Keep in mind, though, you cannot do the select online.
Right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remembered that.
Yeah, if everyone, thanks, Travis. The select product is not available online for the people under 55 or 60. So, good point. Okay, West, how old are you?
46.
Okay. So the reason it doesn't calculate it is it's double checking that those are correct, because some people don't know how old they are. Weird. Okay, will the proposed insured sign either online or by hand? Yes. And is the applicant owner the same as the proposed insured? This is the same as on the normal enrollment form. Usually both those questions are yes, okay? Chime in if you guys have any questions, because probably other people do too. So I'm going to do a drop down here for Larkin and Salt Lake City. And you'll see now with your drop down, it'll autofill that information. Those of you that just represent one physical building, it'll just be one. If you have multiple locations, you'll have those options. And then it also fills in all the license number and everything. Okay, so now we've already had a conversation about which package he wants, and he chose the Larkin Traditional Package and Veneer Poplar Package, okay? So the Larkin Traditional Funeral Service and Veneer Poplar Casket. So see, it just autofills all of it. It's super slick. Everything that's included in the funeral service, and then the itemized the package savings is autofilled. I believe, Wes, can we confirm that all the firms have agreed on some package savings of some sort?
Yeah, some yes. At this point, I believe everybody's agreed to something. There is, in some some cases they wanted me to leave the savings off the packages, but you guys can then decide to apply your certificate of savings at the time of the appointment. So in some cases it's applied, in some cases it isn't, but most firms are offering something. Yes,
Great.
almost all.
Okay, perfect. And yours will populate based on what it is, so you won't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So then we're going next. So now it's filling in the casket. So Karen, I know a few of you had this. Say he's good with the package, but he, my wife had this beautiful oak casket. That's the one I want. You could change that, and you'll notice. So if I change this to $47.45, if you look down here, it'll change this total price automatically. It will not update the discount automatically for those of you that offer a discount, but we're going to move this back to what it was. So you can change in those if they have a different vault. So when we look at those packages, they're customizable. You can change any of that in here. Does that make sense to everyone? Programs, we've got everything included. Next. You can just leave this blank. We charge you in services obtaining. So then that's the total contract plot price. Section 3 then, because we had that conversation and we added money for flowers, etc. We're going to add $1,900. Okay. And now it'll update the cost. So now the total is the $10,927 that we discussed. So make sure if you're adding supplemental funds, that goes in this section 3. Okay. Purchases, I could write embalming. That's not how you spell it. Vault, whatever it is that's required. Is that required to be filled out, Wes, to the required purchases?
It's not required. Some of your firms might require, but this is the embalming required for public viewing, or vault required, or cemetery requires vault. If it's not filled out, it's not going to kick it back. But
yeah,
if your state requires you to list items that you're requiring the family to purchase, a merchandise or something regarding the service, then you could put it in there. It's not near as much of an issue it used to be, but if it's required by law or by the cemetery or funeral home that they buy something for a type of service that they're doing, that's typically where you're supposed to put that. But I'm assuming probably most people aren't filling that out now on the paper application. So
yeah, right. So you can leave it blank or fill it out either way. Now this is the piece about irrevocability. So if you mark this irrevocable, you can't undo it. So if you're dealing with Medicaid or something like that, you don't need a separate form now. I know, Pat, you've started adding this on some, Scott. So, but just be aware, if you make it irrevocable, that's a permanent mark, so you can't change it. So on this, we're going to say no. And then written disclosure. Yep, go ahead.
Aaron, what's public assistance?
It's like for Medicaid.
that would be Medicaid. Yeah. Sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
That's okay. It just, if they're dealing with the spend down where they're having to get rid of money to qualify for Medicaid assistance, you'll have some people that are using, this is one approved method of spending money to qualify for Medicaid. We can have a
Okay, thank you
on that, but yeah, that's,
okay.
Yep.
Aaron,
Yep.
I make all of my policies irrevocable. Is there a downside to that?
Why? No, there's not a downside.
Yeah.
A lot of firms do and don't.
You might make some customers mad.
Yeah. So you're unique. You're unique in the state of California, Diana, where actually the family legally can't change the policy anyways. So you can't have a family that buys a traditional funeral and a pissed off kid come in and do a direct cremation. Like, that's against the law for them to do there. So,
Right.
I mean, you can, I mean, all the that is saying is that the family can't get any money back. If you mark that yes, the family can't get anything back. There's no cash value to this plan. So that would be the only thing, is that if you're dealing with a family that they're younger, let's say, and they're kind of, wishy-washy. Can we get what about down the road if we change our minds or whatever? If they make it irrevocable, it's going to be really difficult to change the policy. So if they're older, it doesn't really hurt it to mark it yes. If they're younger, it could, because it takes away any flexibility for them to change their plan later.
Right.
But they can change it themselves, can't they?
Yes.
They can still change it themselves. That's true. Absolutely. Yep.
Within the dollar amount.
Yep. Yeah, within the dollar amount.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then that extra dollar amount can be shifted to non-guaranteed items so that it goes back to the family?
Yes, and technically they shouldn't get any money back ever. Even it was, I mean, once they make the plan irrevocable, there is no, I mean, technically the funeral home is supposed to report back to the, like if they did do this to qualify for Medicaid, you know, if it was ever discovered that the family got money back, the funeral home wouldn't be in trouble, but the family certainly would. So just kind of just keep that. I mean, I would typically just mark that yes if they were doing a Medicaid spend down. Okay. Otherwise I'd mark it no.
You can
personally.
make it irrevocable later.
You can always make it irrevocable later. Good point, Aaron.
Okay, so written disclosures, most people just mark no on this because they'll say we'll let people know ourselves. So just put, please do not send a disclosure. Okay, so now it's going to show a sample of the contract. This is really cool. Let me pull this here. And it'll kind of show the whole thing. I think if you do viewing on an iPad, let me make sure. Yeah, then it pulls up the whole screen. So it shows everything that's included for the service package, the casket, the vault, the programs, register book, money for supplemental, you know, it's all there. So pretty cool there. And then we're going to go next. And West and I had talked about monthly payment options. So these are kind of the options, so he can pick the 5-year plan. So this is where I would get him back on the phone and I would you can save it and exit. So save and exit, and then I could pull it back up later with him. And then I could review that form that I just showed you and then move to this page. So you can review the actual contract filled out, and then you can go to this page. So now we're going to assume West is back on the phone. He has seen that contract filled out, okay? And okay, West, so there's a few different options based on what we discussed a few minutes ago. So you can pay in full, which if you have the means is of course your best option. But we can set it up initially so that you're paying, I believe you said over 5 years was the best plan. We also include with all of our plans what we call away from home assurance, which covers all the cost, red tape, paperwork of getting you back home safely if you're 75 miles or more away from home. So we just add $45 to this amount. So 45 plus 292. So that's only $337 a month for the first year. After the first year, it just drops to the 292. If you just did the minimum over the 5 years, of course, you're going to pay more because of that cost of insurance. But back to your question earlier, you can pay it off with no additional cost within the first 6 months. So based on this information, which looks most comfortable to you, West?
I'll stick with the 5-year plan. That's fine.
Great. So we're going to move on to this next page. So he still can't see my screen. So now we're just on the phone. Okay, you're just making small talk. I'm just now telling West, okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I would leave the beneficiary information out. It tends to just complicate things unnecessarily. So we're doing a multiple payment plan. This asks if we want to ask the health questions. So West, I'm just going to ask you a few health questions. It does not affect your cost or coverage. So the first question is, you're not hospitalized or bedridden. Have you ever been diagnosed or treated for AIDS or AIDS-related complications?
No.
Okay. So the next question, I'm just going to ask you a list of questions. Just tell me if you've been treated for any of these in the last 5 years. Alcohol abuse, dementia, Alzheimer's, kidney disease. You just read through all of them. Yes or no to any or all of those?
Nope. I'm healthy.
Great. Hopefully not yes to all of those. That would be a lot. Okay, great. So what is nice about that on the health questions is just to understand once the policy is issued, as you're making payments, heaven forbid you were to pass away for any reason, the entire rest of your funeral would be forgiven and paid off directly to the funeral home when the time comes. Now, on my own, I'm just going to mark no, that we're not replacing existing life insurance, okay? Just always put no there. And then it's signed at the city you're in. So I am currently in Sandy, Utah, okay? And Wes, when we're done here, if you don't mind, just text me kind of a selfie of you holding your driver's license. If you want to block out the number, that's fine. I just need to actually see that it's you. Sound good?
Okay, sounds fine.
Great. So then same here, it's asking the replacement questions. And then we're just going to next. Now, one of the nice benefits is this does cover up to 12 grandchildren. It at no additional cost. It provides up to $5,000 towards their services if, heaven forbid, they were to pass away. I know you said you have one grandchild. Is that correct?
Yes, I've got one.
So it's autofilling. We'll say that's Bob Smith. Is that your grandchild?
Yep. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, Bob Smith, that's him.
I don't know how to say grandchild name. So now it's going to ask for submission. We're going to continue online enrollment. Now, with the LPOA, the licensed power of attorney right now, you could print and sign for them. We'll get into that. But right now we're going to continue online enrollment. And is the pre-need sales agent and funeral director the same person? No.
That question is only in the state of Utah, you guys. It doesn't matter anywhere else.
So don't worry about that. Okay, so name shown on account, we'll do West Folger. Is the payer the same as the above? Yes. Requested withdrawal date, because it's the PAC, is the 5th. The amount of the draft, we're going to do a checking. We're going to do bank name, whatever bank they use, any place. And then you just fill in the account and routing numbers. So 1, 2, you can look up account and routing numbers if you need. I think those are 9 digits, right?
Yeah, they're 9.
Okay, and then the account number. So you'll fill that in. See, they do not need a physical check, which is great news for online enrollment. It'll automatically draft it from their bank account. So now we're going to review the agreement, back to view on iPad, even though I'm not on an iPad. And now this is the enrollment form. So it's already filled out the assigned mortuary. I know that's something people forget, so you won't forget that. Like Travis always says, this is foolproof. I mean, you can't make a mistake. It shows what they've paid today, their first payment. Did someone laugh at that?
Kathy.
Kathy, you're great. I love you, Kathy. Okay, so see, it just shows you all of that. We're going to go next. Any special instructions? We don't have. Continue.
Yes, you do.
We have special instructions.
From homesteaders.
What? And what is that, Jane?
Basically, it says that since you're not seeing them in person, you have to put something in that box
Thank you.
that says how you signed.
Yeah.
Because I talked to someone the other day. So you have to say if you did an LPOA and if you saw their driver's license or you got their social security number, you have to put that in the box.
Thank you, Jane. See, that's why I need all of you. So I did signing via LPOA, sent picture of driver's license. Okay, good. Thank you, Jane.
Jane,
Yes.
if you see the driver's license on the screen, does that count as seeing it, or does that also have to be noted?
Yes.
No, you just have to say, I saw it, a picture of it. They shared a picture of it with me.
Yeah,
Of
that's
the
all you need.
driver's-
Yeah, just
Yeah, you
verify
don't
you
have to
saw
write
it.
down a driver's license number or record anything. You just have to say that you honestly saw a picture of it. They can text you a picture. They can show you on FaceTime. They can, whatever works.
And you don't have to actually send that selfie anywhere, right?
Right.
Nope.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, so we're now doing electronic consent. So there's 2 pieces to this. This basically, I wasn't clear till a minute ago on this either. This is acting as their signature. So as an agent, so this is now me, Erin is the agent. I agree to provide my electronic signature, and I'm now going to answer these questions. So my mother's maiden name, we'll say, is also Smith. Oh, there we go. Hometown school. Father's The middle name is William. As agent, I agree to the above. Okay, next. Now it's going to ask the same thing as the policy owner. So now I'm going to ask West, and I will have had this information from that page we filled out from the NowDeck form. That's why those questions are on there. So West, what's your mother's maiden name? We'll say Robinson. What high school did you graduate from, West?
North Salem.
And your father's middle name?
Thomas.
Okay, so as policy owner, so you're filling this out for them. So we're now going, if you had a couple and the wife is doing the same as the husband or vice versa, you would do submit and clone, and then you could just change any information that's different. But for this case where it's just West, we're just going to submit, and you're done. Okay, a lot of information. It's a little bit of a fire hose, but we've gone through this a couple times. Any questions from anyone?
How were you able to sign that without some sort of authority, Aaron?
Oh, good question, Wes. That's my next on my list. Things to cover. Thanks for the reminder. Okay, the question was, how are we able to legally sign this now? So we sent out the link for the LPOA. So it's very simple. You guys have the link, or you can go to homesteaderslife.com/LPOA. You don't have to sign in. You'll see this here. The screen just pops up with the form. Okay, everyone see this? Has anyone on the call done the LPOA already?
I have.
Great. Yay.
Yes, I have.
Multiple voices. I love
Jane
it.
Mellon.
Yes.
Yeah. Lots of you are doing it. Sweet.
Great. So we're now, Michael had a good point. Some people were doing this before the online enrollment. People may not be comfortable with this until you've actually gone through, but because of the questions you're already asking through the online enrollment, they're going to be comfortable by the end of it to answer this versus starting with this, and they'll say, why are we doing this? What is this? So just go ahead and do the online enrollment and then get the LPOA signed. So on this, we're doing pre-authorized collection from bank name, amount to be withdrawn, and that's today's payment, right, West?
Yep.
Okay, checking, and then the routing number and the account number. Account holder is West.
And just keep in mind, so you're emailing the link, homesteaderslife.com/LPOA. You're emailing the link to the family. The family has to fill this out on their own, but it's very important that you're on with them so that when questions come up, you can answer them. So the very last step in the process, you're sending them this link. They're pulling it up on the computer while you're on the phone with them, and you're going to walk them through filling this out on their own.
Right. That's the most important thing we've heard about this form is if you just email it out to families and tell them to call you when it's done, either they won't do it or it's done wrong most of the time. So fill one out yourself. You can just send a test form in, but make sure you're comfortable with it. But you're going to send this to them, and then I'd recommend you have the same screen up. So you just go through the questions with them. Okay, Mary, what's your bank name? Great. Would you please type, whatever, Wells Fargo.
Sharon, sorry to interrupt you. Also, click on that drop down again. At the bottom, it says have already provided to agent. If you've already gotten the checking or information, if you click on that, they won't have to fill it out again.
Oh,
that's correct.
Great. I didn't realize that.
So if they've already gathered that on the online enrollment process, you don't need to provide it again here.
Which it almost always will. Thank you, Michael. So have already provided it, then you skip that whole section. So then you're just walking them through this. So their name, the name of proposed insured is going to be the same as the owner, usually, Folger. So just kind of like we've been doing with everything. And then the address. So you're just going through and filling it all out. Okay, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84111. They're filling this out. You're just walking them through it. And then you'll see here, so now, okay, Mary, you'll see a little hand cursor comes up. I just need you to make your best signature, make your mark. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to look like their signature, but Wes would sign it and whatever it looks like. And whatever they want to do, right? There. Good.
Yep.
So
You gotta walk them through this part though. They're gonna have a hard time with it. You gotta say, okay, put your cursor in that box, hold down your left mouse button, hold it down, don't let it up, and do your best signature you can.
right.
Well,
Okay.
something's got to be there. We'll be fine.
Yeah, if they mess up, you can exit out and start over. But they have to, because what's happened is people have gone through and not filled out anything and submitted, and they don't receive it. It doesn't count. So just make sure they put something, even if it's just this.
Yep.
And then you can send an email to yourself so you have a copy of it, to them so they have a copy of it, and then if you want anyone else to receive a copy of it, and then submit. You don't need to print it. You don't need to do anything else with it. Homesteaders receives it automatically. They'll have it on record, and you're done.
Everyone go in and fill out an LPOA on yourself, because we'll be calling you later this week to sell you something. So no, just go in and fill it out so that you can put your email address in there so you can see what the family gets back. So that's the final step is family's going to fill this out and submit it. And you're just going to verify that they're going to put their email address in there, and they're going to get something back from homesteaders that says that they received their LPOA form. So, again, that's just another kind of a double check. Okay, go to your email. Let's make sure you got a response that they received your form. At that point, you are done. Everything's taken care of.
The last thing, so I don't forget, so Wes doesn't have to remind me about one other thing. And then when you're done, you just need to, on your own, mail out a personal wishes organizer to the family. That's a good reason to follow back up, send a thank you card. Just do that on your own. If you need more copies of those, let us know. But we don't want to be sending out mass personal wishes organizers. It's only for once you've done this presentation and you've gone through the PWO online, then we send it to them. We don't want to send it to them unless we've gone through it with them online.
Right. One last point too in this is that with the practice enrollment, it doesn't give you this option. But when you do a live online enrollment, you do have the option of putting in email addresses for who you want to have a copy of the contract. So if there's someone at the funeral home that needs a copy, make sure you put theirs in there. Make sure you put the customer's email address in there. Put your email address in there as well, so that everybody that's necessary is getting a PDF copy of the contract.
At Wes, that's one thing I couldn't find. Where's that located to actually enter their email addresses?
On an actual enrollment, are you seeing that on the one that you did yesterday, Michael? Was that on there?
You know what? I ended
The
up
one I
just copy to my
did the other day, I couldn't find where to put their email in at.
It might just be so I thought you could put it in, you could put a number of email addresses in there to send it to family. I do know that there's an email address when you're gathering information on the very first page. So maybe that's where the email goes, but I'll verify that, because if you're not seeing that, I haven't done an actual enrollment. So those that have, if it's not giving you that option, I probably need to look into that. You do have the option, Aaron, if you go, this might be the best way to do it for now if you want to send them a copy. If you go to pending reprint enrollments, Aaron, just real quick, this might be the best way to do it.
And then too, where do we have our funeral director sign?
They'll have to sign it electronically, Kathy. So you'll actually have to bring your pending enrollments where Erin's going right now, and she'll click on waiting for funeral director's signature. So put that there.
I knew Travis. Yeah, I just wasn't sure where to find it. Okay.
And then you'll pick the contract that you want your funeral director to sign. This is only in the state of Utah, by the way. You don't have to worry about this in any other state, but and then you'll just have them look at the contract, and they'll enter the same information for verification, their mother's maiden name, their high school, and their father's middle name, and then the contract is submitted. So you just write out
the funeral director just needs to sign his name. He doesn't have to answer any questions or anything. He just has to put his name in down.
Yep.
Okay.
So then, Aaron, before you go away from it, so if we want to email a copy of this to the family, go back there, go to the top of your bar there where you have the download button.
Okay. Here.
That one, click on that button right there. Yep. So this is a way that you can actually save a copy of this PDF document. So
So then I would just,
anytime you do it,
yeah.
yeah, and then you could just take this and send it as an attachment to the family.
Yeah.
Why don't you want to share the personal organizer for?
Good question.
Sorry, is there an echo?
Would you ask that again?
He asked why you
want
wouldn't
to
want
share
to share the personal wishes organizer
ahead of time?
Right?
I couldn't hear you.
You're asking why you wouldn't want to share the personal wishes organizer?
Before going through it, in order to give them a chance to look it over and ask questions.
Because we found once people get it, the actual book, they'll say, okay, well, let us go through it. We'll call you when we're ready. They get so overwhelmed by the information. If we don't physically go through it with them, either online or in person, they tend to put it to the side and say they'll call us once they've had a chance to look at it first, which will be 8 years from now.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to get out of our houses in 8 years.
Well, then maybe it's
so
not.
Yeah. So your goal is to you're gonna go over with them the digital version of the book, and you're gonna then after that mail them a physical copy. If you do it in the other order, you're gonna have a really hard time getting people to talk to you because they're gonna just say, "Oh, I haven't even had a chance to look at that yet."
Right. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. Tell me how you're feeling. Do you feel, oh, hi, Kathy, I can see your face. You look great. You're muted, but I can see that you're talking. Okay, so are you—
Erin, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Heather.
Okay.
So maybe those people who have done a presentation, online and virtual, are you finding you're having a harder time or the same amount of pressure in creating emotional urgency over the phone versus in person? Has anybody come across that?
Melanie, maybe you could speak to that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Was that,
what was the first
yeah.
one?
Heather, will you
So the question was, are you is it more difficult to create the emotion on the phone versus meeting face to face? Is that kind of the premise of your question, Heather?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So those who have done an online enrollment or sold something over the phone up to this point, what are you experiencing as far as creating the emotion with the family? Obviously, we've just added the personal wishes organizer, so I think that's going to help us with the emotional piece. So a lot of you didn't even have that actually probably beforehand. So is that going to help to go through the personal wishes organizer first? Maybe that's a good question.
Absolutely.
Melanie, do you want to speak to that? I know you've had a few now. You've had good success with it. How are you finding that working?
So I found that this medium, it's just different than doing it in person. But I do find that I did build nice rapport with the family using it this way. It's just I've never done it. I never done it this way before, even as a funeral director. But I found that just being able to provide this to the family, this service, without them physically having to come in, I think that that in itself, even though it doesn't seem on the surface like a lot, I think that that's servicing the family in ways we've never done before. And I did find that being on the phone with them, going through it, there's a lot of time for small talk, and it's just a different medium. But I did find that the emotional urgency can definitely be conveyed on the phone. It's just different than having someone sitting next to you, even if you can't see them in a go-to meeting. It's just using our abilities in a different way. But I definitely do think that we can achieve that for sure. Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Any other
thoughts? Thank you, Melanie.
One piece that I'll add, and we're not going to probably get too aggressive with this at this point, but if you do have someone who's younger and you yourself are comfortable with using like a go to meeting like we're on right now with the family, or Zoom, or Join Me. There's a few different platforms. Zoom is a free platform that you can set up a Zoom account. And if you're dealing with somebody who's younger, or maybe has some business savvy or some technology experience, and you actually want to do a screen share like we're doing on this meeting right now, show them that packet just like we went through it, because you're gonna be emailed that as an attachment as well when your account is all set up. So you do have the ability, and you can walk through the online application with them seeing your screen and the whole thing. That's going to be a little bit more advanced, but you guys are welcome to set that up on your own and do that. So if you know what I'm talking about, you know, these companies are getting bombarded with new accounts now because everyone is doing business this way. And I think that more and more people are going to be comfortable with this. But just know that if you want to do a screen share and share those packages, share your company's website, if you have casket selections, share the screen when you're doing the online enrollment application, you can do that. We're just not going to get involved at our level because we feel that only a small percentage of people will probably do that. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to go and set up a bunch of accounts that aren't going to be used. But feel free on your own. You can set up a free Zoom account. You can go one-on-one for free, and have a free account and share your screen with families. Where that gets technically difficult though is when you're working with people who don't have laptops, they don't have microphones and speakers on their computer and things like that, where you can't really have a conversation as well as you can. So at this point, I would say use NowDeck and use your phone. You're with them on the phone. You might have to jump on the phone for a little bit to fill out the application. You can always download it and email it to them to review it with them before you actually close the contract. But you're gonna have to play around with this just a little bit. And again, we are here for you to help. So you'll be contacted this week, and we're gonna hold your hand through a full version of this, and have all of you walk through it at least once with your manager, with Heather, or somebody. So be ready for that call, and know that we're gonna make sure that you really fully understand this so you can do it effectively with the family. Everyone's gonna have to go through it at least once with one of us.
They'll get to go through it at least once.
But
yes,
question. Jane, maybe you can answer this if you've done it. But in Texas, we're required to provide a GPL. So online, we have to have that GPL either to email over to them as an attachment. Wes, I don't know that it's part of the packages that you've put together that we'd be able to provide, but we have to give them a GPL. I don't know what the other states have to do.
Yeah, in New Jersey, Lou, we have to give a GPL. We're really strict on that. So I've just been emailing it to the family before we even have a meeting, so they can get it even before we meet. And then there's essentially a paper trail that you did send it, because our state's really strict with that too.
And I would mail
Yeah.
So
PWO.
what I did, Lou, was I've been sending out the GPLs, but then I've sent a new one telling them I have a new one for you to see. It doesn't say GPL on it, but it's the new 5-step plan that we have that we use for HJF and DL. And so I'm not sure. I would have to ask Antoinette if that new one can take the place of the GPL, or we still have to send the GPL, because it's redundant. It basically has the same information. But the GPL, the GPL actually has a lot more information. Huh?
I didn't see all the detail that's on the GPL in the package.
It's not. That's what I said.
The conversation right now is that's a big gray area, and I asked that question and nobody could really give me a straight answer, because as a hypothetical scenario, if a family calls the funeral home and says, hey, my mother's about ready to pass away and I need some prices on a traditional funeral with a casket and a vault, if they even know to ask that question, they probably don't. We can give them very specific price information without actually giving them a GPL on a phone conversation. So if we meet with anybody in person, that's where the law comes into play. So if someone comes into the funeral home, you're required to give them a GPL. If you go and meet with them in the home, you're required to give them a general price list. There's actually not clarity on if you are talking with someone over the phone, if that's a requirement, because families all the time without ever receiving a GPL with a phone consultation.
I thought I read in the state regulations that even if they call in, we have to send it to them.
And that might very well be the case in Texas. So it's just kind of a gray area. So, but we'll get some clarification there, Lou. I would say if you have a PDF version that you can email to the family, to be safe, I would recommend sending that to the family. And then, as Melanie said, there's a paper trail there. So I don't really see that the FTC is going to be running around trying to get funeral homes in trouble right now for not sending out general price lists, though.
And if you're using the PWO anyway, you could just mail the GPL with it.
Yeah, put a physical copy in with the person which is organizer. Yep, that's a great idea as well. So
Isn't it always available on the websites of the funeral home?
Yes.
Not everyone has it. Yeah, some do, some don't. But pretty much every funeral. Well, here's the deal. I have everyone's general price list in PDF format for the most part right now because we've been asking them for them for the last couple of weeks. So if you need it, let us know. But I would just say that's your op. I mean, I would try to make sure they either got a physical copy or they got a virtual copy. So you email them a PDF if your funeral home has that. If not, just include it with the person which is organized when you put that in the mail, and when you put that in the mail to the family. So, and you may want to include a copy of the contract anyways. So when you download that PDF and you print it out, you might want to include that with your person which is organizer as well. So again, you guys, this is just going to take some practice and just messing around and figuring out the best way to do it. But click that download button, give it a try, see what that looks like. Try to print out a copy of the contract from your printer at home. The best thing is to do is just, again, we're going to give you the glorious opportunity to do this with one of us. Does that sound better, Aaron?
Yeah.
The opportunity to walk through with us as a customer, the NowDeck and an online enrollment and sending the LPOA to us, because we want to make sure everyone is very, very comfortable. So be expecting our call as soon as your account's set up, which we are getting pretty close to having them all done. I know I keep saying we're close, but we're waiting. We get little tweaks and funeral owners send back these little adjustments, or that discount's too much, or you got the wrong caskets or whatever. So we're really trying to get them done. We're pretty dang close. There's a few little revisions we got to do here and there. So some of the owners have been a lot more quick at getting back to us, and others we've had to circle back to them 2 or 3 days later and ask them if they've even had a chance to take a look yet, because they are also swamped. But we don't want to be doing anything that they don't approve of. So with that being said, I think we are really getting close. Some of you are starting to get the emails today that say NowDeck is ready. When you have that email, NowDeck is ready, that means your NowDeck is set up, your packages are in there, and you're ready to start doing this. You'll get a phone call within a couple of days of that, most likely from Heather, who's going to walk you through the whole process once, just to make sure you're comfortable with it.
Thanks, everyone. I know it was a little bit longer call today, but some important stuff. And Jane and Lou, it was good to see your faces. I've heard such good things. We're really excited to have
you. Love it.
You can only believe half of it.
An awesome story about what you had last week. So we have no doubt you're on your way to superstardom.
That's great. Hey guys, thanks so much. It was a long call today. We got through a lot of information. I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, thank you guys. If you need anything, let us know. Good to see your faces. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.